The Walking Dead Season 1, Episode 5 thoughts. This episode is called Wildfire, another episode I love. Spoilers for every episode leading up to and including this one. The episode is rated, I want to say, TV-14. So will this video be? Let's dive right in. So, I've mentioned before on this channel, I really appreciate when media takes an honest look at grieving and mourning. And yeah, this is another such piece of media. Absolutely loved it. The entire episode is about mourning, grieving, and sometimes saying goodbye to someone that isn't dead or dying. We see, I'm going to try to get the names right, Annie, mourning and grieving, Amy, who is clearly, I forget exactly who, but one of the other characters says she's a ticking time bomb, We have Glenn protest the idea of burning the bodies of their own, that they should get proper, respect in death. Over the course of it, they're trying to figure out what about Jim with this, if they can't get him to a cure in time, he'll die and then turn. Let's see. One of the last would be the, I'm sorry, I do not remember his name. I mean no disrespect. The Latino man and his family who decide not to go to the CDC. And that's, it's not quite the same as grieving or mourning someone who died, but it is still goodbye, possibly forever. And at the near the end of the episode, Jenner, he's not grieving or mourning someone else, but, he is saying goodbye to the world, to life. He is suicidal, he practically says he's going to flip a coin. He's going to get really drunk and then maybe kill himself, And after all of this sadness, at the very end, we get, a ray of hope, literally. The door opens and bright light pours out. You can't even really see inside. You can just perceive the light. And, if you are watching a movie or TV show or the like that's made by white people in the West, and bright light pours out a door as it's opening, that is, implying hope. It's like, the path to heaven is opening up, And, I thought they handled each of these goodbyes extremely well. I love how, for a while it seemed like Annie was just refusing to accept the reality, but she was ready. That's why she, took the safety off the gun. It wasn't, like, she points the gun at Rick, yes, but she was there to shoot Amy once the time came. She just wanted it to be herself and not someone else. And she wanted it to be, right after she turned and not before then. And that was also just a great, Lori was just there talking to her. Didn't bring the gun out, but when Rick comes over, immediately gets like, I know about the safety now. Why did I teach her about the safety? And that is the downside. Rick, like, his decisions largely make sense, but he does also enforce those decisions with force when necessary, when he deems it necessary, at least. And she knows, if she just says no and there's no gun pointed at him, he's probably going to drag her away, possibly get help from one of the others like Shane. With the gun there, that's not going to happen, so I think that is the primary one that I really... Yeah, with Jim, just such a great job, like, building to... first it's just, why is there blood on your shirt? He's like, oh, it wasn't a bite. It was, I was scratched. I had an itch. And the walker was, very perceptive about it and, tried to take care of it. But no, he was indeed bitten and is also like, no way a scratch is going to produce enough blood that it, soaks through the shirt like that. That's just not a thing, So, to Jim, like, if I'm bitten by a zombie, probably not telling you. If you think that's okay, you're probably tacky too. And yeah, the way that gradually, he gets worse and worse, and he's like having these flashes of walkers, which is a good visual way to show, yeah, he is turning. Or he will turn if nothing changes. They did say in the first episode, first you die and then you come back. It's not that that varies between different zombie media, but yeah. And I think, yeah, I briefly want to talk about, I think the show does such a great job with these dilemmas. It genuinely is, like, there's so many questions raised on this show where I really find myself thinking, what would I do? Would I, like, a lot of the time, it's Rick and Shane who disagree over what exactly to do, and both of them make good points, I really appreciate in this episode that it is brought up, Shane thinks if Rick stayed, they would have been safer, and Rick points out, I brought guns back. We might have been less safe without those, And let's see. Yeah, I'm not finding it frustrating when they try to figure out what course of action to take next, and that's quite crucial because there's a lot of that so far on the show, and it is also the kind of thing of it's a TV show. They got to keep people through the commercial breaks and such. So yeah, the you got to have some conflict. And they can't have all the conflict be directly fighting walkers and such. So, yeah. Let's see. Honestly, I believe Daryl. Maybe I'm naive, but when he says, I would be grateful if you would shoot me in the head, if you knew there was a good chance I would turn. He seems like, for all his flaws, which is not a criticism, it's what's the opposite of criticism? It's a positive. Let's go with that. It makes his character more complex and interesting, But for all his faults, he seems like, when he's not letting his temper get the better of him, he is very... what's the word in English again? He takes things on on their terms. He is right. They have to do something. And yeah. So I've already mentioned some stuff from the scene of Shane and Rick in the woods alone. I also really appreciated the bit about, it would be different if this was your family. And, just briefly there, we're like, you know what? I think I see what Laurie means about him saying the wrong thing. Because, wow, dude, that is not the right thing to say under these particular circumstances. And he tries to say, it took me out of context. It's like, but he does follow up by saying, I can never repay you for protecting them. And that was a great, and the bit where, we hear, let's see, I think it's like rustling of leaves or something. I hope they really paid the Foley artist well, because he graduated with honors from the University of Creepy Sounds in the Woods that make you think that there's about to be some sort of attack by a zombie, because like the twig snaps and the rustling of leaves, just fantastic work. And yeah, Shane raises his gun and then realizes, oh, that's Rick. And then he doesn't lower his gun for several seconds, and you see on his face, just fantastic. I love John Bernthal. He's so talented. Again, you see so much in his face. Like, he is thinking it would be so much easier. I guess he doesn't like love triangles in fiction. And at the same time, there is this thing of like, we've been friends for so many years. I trust him. Laurie needs him. He's Carl's biological father, all these things. And he lowers his gun. And then, the senior frickin' citizen standing right there and just staring at him. And, like, it's one of those things where, like, it's not just the crime, it's also the cover-up. The fact that Shane won't just come out and say, look, I'm sorry, okay? I'm okay now. I'm really not going to hurt him or anyone else. I swear. But no, he's like, how can you tell the difference? I don't know. Shane, maybe if you stopped, framing suspects that you feel confident or guilty, and you weren't so stressed out about the IA investigation, maybe your head wouldn't even go there. I don't know. And, like you can tell, the old-timer, he knows, and he knows, and Shane, he knows, and he knows that he knows. Poor Rick, he's the only one. Not only does he not know, he doesn't even know that he doesn't know. And really happy to see Noah Emmerich in something again. It's been a while. As Jenner. And it's, again, one of those things, like, acting-wise, really tough. Because it is a one-man show, and he goes through, some emotions over the course of it. I think they did the right amount of the kind of the camera glitch effect. They kind of needed it, because it's clearly like it's cutting out breaks, and it's like if you didn't have the glitch effect, if you just said all this stuff without any breaks, it would feel like, okay, there's no way he did all. It's kind of like it's cutting out. We don't know exactly how much time, and he's probably like just rambling to this camera for a really long time. He says himself he's starting to go a little loopy. He's struggling with, is it day or is it night? I can't, and let's see, and also the kind of desperation and frustration of like, is anybody even looking at this footage? Does anybody, am I a clown to you? Do I make you laugh? And we can 100% understand his reluctance to let them in at first. But yeah, after a little while, he is like, I guess we don't actually know for sure, but I feel like he must think that it's the best chance for both him and them. He can't possibly be thinking of killing them. There's no way. They greatly outnumber him, and he can tell they have weapons. I love the little bit of like, Rick points out the camera moved, and Shane is like, it moves automatically. And it's this great thing. Technically, they're both right. Shane is right. That I believe it is accurate that camera moves completely automatically to trace the movement, to me, so that someone can be watching the footage without having to keep up with, having to move the camera. But it does also mean there's electricity in there. Why would there still be electricity if there wasn't even one person in there? But on the other hand, maybe that person very recently died and the electricity hasn't run out yet. So it is one of those things, like, I don't think Rick genuinely... I think Rick deep down knows that the camera is likely automatic. It is, yeah. And, yeah, Jenner, it's very, very effective when he is... Oh, right. Just briefly, I did want to say the thing with when they're all saying goodbye to Jim and Daryl stands there for like 2 seconds. Like, it really felt like, okay, is he gonna shoot Jim in the frickin' face with one of those arrows, and you can tell he is like, you better not. You know, yeah. They're leaving him behind. That should be fine, you know. And let's see, also the thing with, you know, yeah, Annie and you know, talking about, you know, I'm sorry I didn't show up for your birthday party, was just, oh. And the tear-felt goodbye with the Latino and his family. It just, the let's see, what's it called, teddy bear, I think, you know, being handed over, just so sweet. But yeah, you know, Annie with Amy, you know, she's talking about like all this, you know, the regrets, and you know, she's like, I love you, Amy. And, you know, Amy's like, I love you too, sis. And, let's see. Yeah, I really love the uncertain, like, for a few seconds there, it seemed like, is Annie just in complete denial? Because, like, everybody else can tell, you know, like, the eyes and the way she's moving. Fantastic Walker acting there. Like, everyone who's played a Walker so far has done a great job. Because it's so different from natural human movement, you know. It really does feel like there's fairly little, like, brain function left, and certainly no, like, higher brain function. It's all instinct, you know. And the thing of, like, you know, Amy putting her hand on, like, yeah, on Annie's head, like, we can all tell, you know, it seems at first like Annie might not be able to tell, but everybody else can tell. This isn't like, it's not a tenderness. She's trying to eat you, you know, just, yeah. And, yeah, they're, you know, Jenner going into the lab. You know, he opens the freezer and gets some meat out, you know, so, like, immediately my mind goes to, oh, I mean, he's dressed kind of weird for eating dinner right now, but okay, you do you. And, you know, he puts a small piece of the meat into this little thing, and he pours some kind of, like, I don't know, acid maybe, or so, you know, some kind of thing onto it that causes, like, a chemical reaction. And I'm sitting there thinking, I mean, if this is like, if he's about to eat, this feels really, really strange, and just like, how does he have the exact same pre-dinner ritual as I do?